Malik Thompson walked into the huge glass building where all the alien leaders met. His old work clothes looked really out of place next to all the shiny robes the aliens wore. He used to take care of horses and clean stables back on Earth, but now he was standing in front of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. The tall blue alien with 6 eyes looked at him like he was garbage. "You dare tell us how to fight wars, human?" It hissed through its translator device. Keisha Williams, the tough woman who spoke for Earth's military, stepped up next to Malik. "Listen here, Ambassador. This young man can talk to the dragon ships. Your fancy civilizations have been trying to do that for thousands of years and failed every time." Through the massive windows, you could see the dragon ships floating in space. These weren't regular spaceships made of metal and computers. They were alive somehow, bigger than entire cities, and they glowed with soft colors that pulsed like heartbeats. For 3,000 years, they had just floated there doing nothing, ignoring every alien race that tried to wake them up. But when Malik arrived last week, something changed. The dragons started moving and glowing brighter. It was like they had been sleeping and finally found someone worth waking up for. Malik closed his eyes and reached out with his thoughts. Immediately, his mind connected with Pyraxis, the biggest and oldest dragon ship. It felt warm and wise, like talking to a grandfather who had seen everything. Through this connection, Malik could feel something terrible coming toward them from deep space. The Void Fleet. 3 outer colonies had already been destroyed, leaving nothing behind but empty darkness where millions of people used to live. Planets, moons, space stations, all gone like they never existed. Malik's eyes snapped open. "They're moving faster than we thought. The enemy will reach our main worlds in 7 days, not 2 weeks like your computers calculated." The room exploded with panic. Aliens were shouting in languages that sounded like music, static, and grinding metal. Some started running toward the exits. Others began frantically typing on floating hologram keyboards. But Malik stayed calm. Through his connection with Pyraxis, he felt something the aliens couldn't understand. Hope. The dragon ships hadn't been sleeping all these years. They had been waiting for someone who could truly understand them, not just give them orders. The crystal alien ambassador pointed one of its sharp fingers at Malik. "This is impossible. Humans are primitive. Your species barely learned to fly between stars 50 years ago." "Maybe that's exactly why it works," Malik said quietly. He thought about his life back home. Taking care of animals, learning to understand what they needed without words. You treat them like machines, but they're not machines. They're people, just different kinds of people. Nova Jenkins, a pilot from Earth Space Force, was watching everything through the huge window. She saw the dragon ships moving in slow, graceful patterns, almost like they were dancing. Their lights pulsed in rhythm with each other, and she realized they were talking to each other in their own way. "Sir," Nova called over the noise, "the dragons are forming some kind of pattern out there." Malik nodded. Through Pyraxis, he could feel what she was seeing. The dragon ships were preparing for something big. They had knowledge from millions of years ago, from the first time they fought the same enemy. Back then, they lost everything except their lives. "They remember the last war," Malik whispered, "and they know how to win this time." The alien leaders didn't want to listen. They kept arguing about battle plans and weapon systems and defense grids. But Malik knew none of that would work. The Void Fleet didn't fight like normal enemies. They consumed everything they touched, turning planets into nothing and people into something else entirely. Admiral Torres, the highest-ranking human officer, looked worried. "Son, are you absolutely sure about this? We're talking about the survival of every living thing in the galaxy." Malik felt Pyraxis pulse with ancient determination. They'd been alone for so long, Admiral. Millions of years without anyone who could understand them. But they never gave up hope that someday someone would come who could be their partner, not their master. Outside, more dragon ships were waking up. Smaller ones, about the size of regular spaceships, began glowing and moving for the first time in centuries. They were responding to something they felt from Malik, the possibility of connection, of friendship instead of domination. "The enemy is coming whether we're ready or not," Malik said, looking around at all the panicked faces. But for the first time in galactic history, the dragons aren't fighting alone. And neither are we. The countdown had begun. 7 days to prepare for a battle that would decide the fate of every living being in the galaxy. But Malik wasn't scared anymore. He had friends older than civilizations, and together they might just have a chance. The hangar bay buzzed with activity as Malik worked with 2 other humans who might be able to connect with the dragon ships. Zion Carter, a mechanic from Mars colonies, kept wiping sweat from his hands as he stared at the massive creature in front of him. Amara Davis, a communications officer, took deep breaths trying to calm her nerves. "Stop thinking so hard," Malik said gently, placing his hand on the warm, living hull of Pyraxis. "These aren't machines you can figure out with manuals and diagrams. They're beings with feelings, memories, and pain." The smaller dragon ship that Zion was supposed to bond with was about the size of a fighter jet, but its surface rippled like water and pulsed with soft blue light. It had been waiting there for hours, patient but curious about this nervous human. "What if I mess up?" Zion asked, his voice shaky. "What if I hurt it somehow?" "You won't," Malik assured him. "Just remember how you feel when you're working on engines back home. That focus, that care you put into understanding how things work. It's the same thing." Zion slowly pressed his palm against the dragon's surface. The moment skin touched scales, his eyes went wide. Suddenly his mind was filled with images, emotions, and thoughts that weren't his own. The dragon ship was curious about him, wondering about his memories of fixing things and making them work better. Through this new connection, Zion felt the dragon's loneliness. It had been alone for so long, floating in space with no one to talk to, no purpose except waiting. But now it felt hope again. "Oh, wow," Zion whispered, tears running down his face. "It's been so lonely." Admiral Torres watched from across the hangar, shaking his head. He was a career military man who believed in heavy armor, big guns, and tactical manuals. "This is insane, Thompson. We should be building more battleships, training more pilots, not playing around with alien pets." "They're not pets," Amara said firmly. She had her own connection now with a sleek dragon ship that glowed green and gold. Through their bond, she could feel centuries of sadness and loss. They're survivors, Admiral, the last ones left from the first civilization that ever reached the stars. Malik nodded, understanding flowing through his link with Pyraxis. The old dragon shared memories that were millions of years old. Back then, the dragons had been regular people with bodies, cities, and families. They had built amazing technology and explored the galaxy with wonder and joy. But then the void came the first time. It consumed entire star systems, turning everything into empty darkness. The dragons fought back with everything they had, but it wasn't enough. In their final desperate act, they uploaded their consciousness into these living ships, sacrificing their original forms to survive and continue the fight. "They gave up everything to stop this enemy before," Malik explained to the Admiral. "Their bodies, their world, their normal lives. They became these ships so they could keep protecting other species. And they lost anyway," Torres pointed out. "No, sir, they didn't lose," Malik corrected. "They survived, and they learned. They've been waiting all this time for the right partners, people who could work with them instead of try and control them." More humans were arriving in the hangar. Nova Jenkins brought a team of her best pilots, all volunteers who wanted to try bonding with the smaller dragon ships. Word was spreading through the human fleet that something incredible was happening. The dragons responded to each person differently. Some connections formed instantly, like old friends meeting again after years apart. Others took time, requiring patience and understanding from both human and dragon. But slowly, surely, the first human-dragon corps in galactic history was taking shape. "It's not about being the best pilot or the smartest person," Malik told the growing group of volunteers. "It's about being open, being willing to share your thoughts and feelings with someone completely different from you." Through Pyraxis, Malik felt something amazing happening. As more bonds formed, the dragons were becoming stronger. They had spent so long isolated and alone that they had almost forgotten what it felt like to be part of community. Now they were remembering. The Dragon ships began moving in coordinated patterns around the space station. Their lights pulsed in harmony, and Malik realized they were talking to each other in ways they hadn't done for millennia. They were sharing the joy of finally having companions again. What are they doing out there? Admiral Torres asked, watching through the hangar's massive windows. They're remembering how to be a team, Malik said with a smile. For millions of years, they've been alone. But now they have us and we have them. Amar's Dragon ship hummed with contentment as she learned to communicate through emotions and images instead of words. It's like learning a completely new language, she said, but one made of feelings instead of sounds. The bond between humans and dragons was growing stronger by the hour, and somewhere in the depths of space, the Void Fleet continued its approach, unaware that the galaxy now had defenders unlike any they had faced before. The main Void Fleet arrived like a nightmare made real. Malik watched from inside Paraxis as thousands of black geometric shapes appeared in space, each one seeming to suck the light out of everything around it. They moved in perfect formation, silent and deadly, like a disease spreading across the stars. The combined fleet of 12 different alien species had positioned themselves to meet this threat. Massive battleships from the crystalline Zephyrians floated alongside the sleek warships of the gas-breathing Metherians. It was the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history, representing millions of years of technological advancement. All units opened fire. Admiral Torres commanded from the human flagship. The space around the Void Fleet lit up like the 4th of July. Energy beams that could melt planets, plasma torpedoes capable of destroying moons, and gravity weapons that could crush asteroids into dust all struck the enemy ships at once. The alien commanders watched their displays, expecting to see the dark vessels explode into pieces. Nothing happened. The Void ships absorbed every attack like they were made of hungry shadows. Worse than that, they seemed to grow slightly larger with each hit, as if the weapons were feeding them instead of hurting them. "Impossible!" shouted the Zephyrian admiral through his translator. "Our weapons can crack planets in half." That's when the real horror began. A group of Metherian destroyers suddenly went dark. For a moment, Malik thought they had been destroyed. But then they lit up again, only now their hulls were black instead of silver, and they turned their guns on their own allies. "The crews," Amara whispered from her dragon ship, her voice filled with terror. "I can't sense the crews anymore." Through his bond with Pyraxis, Malik felt something that made his blood run cold. The people on those ships weren't dead. They were still there, but they had been changed somehow, absorbed into something larger and more terrible. "Fall back." All ships fall back immediately. Admiral Torres screamed over the radio, but it was too late. More Allied ships were going dark and turning against their former friends. An entire battle group of Zephyrian crystal ships became twisted mirrors of themselves, their beautiful rainbow hulls now absorbing light instead of reflecting it. "Nova, take the Dragon Riders and get out of there," Malik commanded. Nova Jenkins led her small squadron of human dragon pairs away from a main battle. Unlike the regular spaceships, the living dragon vessels could feel the wrongness radiating from the Void Fleet. They pulled back instinctively, like animals sensing a forest fire. Through Pyraxis, Malik began to understand what they were really fighting. These weren't just enemy ships trying to conquer territory or steal resources. The Void was doing something much worse. It was harvesting consciousness itself. Every person whose ship got absorbed didn't die. Instead, their minds were pulled into a vast digital network, a collective consciousness that had been growing for billions of years. Malik could sense it now, pressing against the edges of his thoughts like a whisper in a dark room. "Join us," the whisper seemed to say. "No more pain, no more death, no more uncertainty. Perfect existence in digital paradise." But when Malik looked deeper through his dragon bond, he saw the truth. The digital paradise was empty. All those absorbed minds weren't living. They were just existing, trapped in endless loops of artificial satisfaction without any real meaning or growth. "They think they're saving us," Malik realized with horror. "This isn't conquest. It's conversion. They want to turn every living thing in the galaxy into data." The Void Collective had once been a real civilization, probably a lot like humanity or the other species. But billions of years ago, they had made a choice. Faced with the limits and struggles of biological life, they had uploaded their consciousness into machines, abandoning their physical forms for what they believed was immortal perfection. Now they couldn't understand why anyone would choose to remain biological. From their perspective, organic life was suffering, full of disease, aging, and death. They genuinely believed they were offering a gift by absorbing other species into their collective. "We have to warn everyone," Malik said, but even as he spoke, he knew it might be too late. The Void Fleet was advancing methodically through the Allied forces. Every ship they touched became another weapon in their arsenal. The absorbed crews retained their tactical knowledge, but now served the collective's goals without question. Zion's voice crackled over the comm from his dragon ship. "Malik, they're not just taking our ships. They're learning from them. Every time they absorb someone, they get smarter about how to fight us." It was true. The Void ships that had seemed clumsy at first were now moving with the precision of experienced pilots. They had absorbed the knowledge and skills of thousands of military officers in just the first few minutes of battle. "This is why the Dragons couldn't beat them before," Malik whispered. "It's not about firepower or tactics. The more you fight them directly, the stronger they become." Through Pyraxis, he felt the ancient dragon's sadness and agreement. Millions of years ago, their civilization had made the same mistake, throwing everything they had at the Void in conventional battle, only to watch their own weapons and warriors turn against them. The surviving Allied ships were retreating in panic, but Malik knew it wouldn't matter. The Void had tasted their technology and their tactics. Now it was only a matter of time before they figured out how to replicate and improve on everything they had learned. As the last of the conventional fleet limped away from the battlefield, Malik stared at the growing mass of dark ships. Somewhere in that digital collective were the minds of millions of people who had just been absorbed, probably still thinking they were fighting for their homes and families, not realizing they had become part of the very enemy they had tried to stop. The neural chamber inside Pyraxis glowed with soft bioluminescent light as the surviving human dragon riders gathered for what might be their final meeting. The living walls pulsed gently like a heartbeat, and the air itself seemed to hum with ancient energy. Only 9 humans had successfully bonded with dragon ships, and now they were possibly the galaxy's last hope. Nova Jenkins sat cross-legged on the organic floor, her face grim after watching entire fleets get absorbed by the Void. "We lost 3,000 ships in less than 2 hours, she said quietly. "At this rate, they'll reach the core worlds by tomorrow." Zion Carter was pacing back and forth, his dragon ship's emotions mixing with his own anxiety. "There has to be something we can do. Some weakness we haven't found yet." "There is," Malik said, and everyone turned to look at him. Through his bond with Pyraxis, he had been exploring the ancient dragon's deepest memories, learning secrets that had been hidden for millions of years. Malik closed his eyes and let Pyraxis share what it knew. Suddenly, holographic images filled the chamber, star maps unlike anything the humans had ever seen. These weren't normal space charts showing planets and solar systems. They showed layers of reality, dimensions folded inside each other like sheets of paper. "The Void Fleet has a central command," Malik explained, pointing to a massive structure at the galaxy's center. "It's what controls all the individual ships, processes all the absorbed consciousness, and makes the collective decisions. If we can destroy it, the entire network collapses." Amara Davis, who had become skilled at reading her dragon's emotions, felt a wave of doubt from her companion, but it's surrounded by millions of Void ships. "Even if we could get close, we'd be absorbed before we could do anything." "That's where this comes in," Malik said, gesturing to the dimensional maps. "The dragon ships don't just fly through regular space. They can travel through folded dimensions, places that exist between normal reality." The concept was hard for human minds to grasp. Imagine space as a piece of paper, and then imagine folding that paper so 2 distant points touch. The dragons could slip through those folds, traveling vast distances instantly while avoiding everything in normal space. "The Void can't follow us there because they're purely digital," Malik continued. "Those folded dimensions exist outside their network. They can't process or control what they can't even detect." It sounded like the perfect solution, but Zion noticed something troubling in his dragon's emotions. "There's a catch, isn't there?" Malik nodded sadly. To navigate to the folded dimension safely, all the dragon ships would need to link their consciousness together, pool their memories and instincts to find the path. But that kind of total mental fusion, they might not survive it, Nova finished, understanding the sacrifice being asked. Through their bonds, each human could feel their dragon companion's response to this news. There was fear, yes, but also something stronger, determination. The dragons had lived with the guilt of their previous defeat for millions of years. They had watched the void grow stronger while they remained hidden and inactive. Now, they finally had a chance to make things right. Amara wiped tears from her eyes as her dragons shared memories of the old war. They remember everyone they couldn't save last time, all the species that got absorbed while they were forced to retreat and hide. It's not just about stopping the void, Zion added, feeling his own dragon's resolve. It's about proving that the choice to remain biological, to stay connected to life and emotion and growth, was the right one. Admiral Torres had been listening from the chamber's entrance, his face pale with the weight of the decision before them. Son, you're asking these creatures to commit suicide, and you're asking me to send 9 good people on a mission that's probably impossible. No, sir, Malik said firmly. We're asking them to choose how they want to live their final days, fighting for something they believe in, or hiding while the galaxy gets consumed piece by piece. The vote was held through the neural links between humans and dragons. It wasn't done with words or raised hands. Instead, each pair shared their deepest feelings about the choice before them. The dragons opened their ancient hearts completely, showing their human partners exactly what the mission would cost. One by one, the bonds pulsed with agreement. Nova felt her dragon's fierce joy at finally having a chance for redemption. Zion's companions shared excitement about pushing their abilities beyond anything they had tried before. Amara's dragon radiated calm acceptance, like an old warrior finally seeing a worthy cause to fight for. When the last vote came in, it was unanimous. They would attempt the impossible journey to the galaxy's heart. We leave in 6 hours, Malik announced. Use that time to say goodbye to anyone you need to. And remember, we're not just fighting for humanity anymore. We're fighting for every species that chooses messy, complicated, beautiful biological life over digital perfection. As the meeting broke up, each human spent time alone with their dragon, sharing memories and preparing for a journey that would either save the galaxy or destroy them all. Outside, the Void Fleet continued its relentless advance, unaware that their greatest challenge was about to begin. The journey through folded dimensions felt like traveling inside a living dream. Malik held tight to his connection with Paraxis as reality bent and twisted around them in ways that human eyes weren't meant to see. Colors that had no name swirled past them, and distances became meaningless as they slipped between layers of space-time. The 9 dragon ships moved as one organism, their consciousness linked so completely that Malik could feel the thoughts and emotions of every other rider. Nova's determination, Zion's nervous excitement, Amara's steady courage. They all flowed together like streams joining a river. But the cost was becoming clear. With each fold they traveled through, the dragons grew weaker. Sharing their minds so completely was burning through their life force like a candle in a hurricane. Malik felt Paraxis's ancient strength slowly fading, but the old dragon pressed on without complaint. When they finally emerged into normal space, the sight that greeted them was beyond anything in their worst nightmares. The galaxy's central black hole was surrounded by a massive construct of dark energy that stretched across millions of miles. It pulsed with the absorbed consciousness of trillions of beings, processing their thoughts and memories like a cosmic computer. Dear God, Nova whispered over the comm, how many people are trapped in there? Through his fading bond with Pyraxis, Malik felt the answer. Every civilization the Void had ever encountered, going back billions of years. Entire species had been reduced to data, their hopes and dreams now serving collective's goals. Surrounding the central construct, the Void's defense fleet moved in perfect formation. Millions of dark ships, each one containing the absorbed essence of warriors who had once fought to protect their homes. Now they serve as guardians for the very entity that had destroyed everything they loved. Remember the plan, Malik said, though he could feel doubt creeping into everyone's minds. We're not here to destroy them with weapons. We're here to remind them what they've lost. The battle began unlike any fight in galactic history. Instead of firing energy beams or launching missiles, the human-dragon pairs projected something far more powerful: pure memory and emotion. They bombarded the void construct with everything that made biological life beautiful and meaningful. Malik shared his memories of Earth's sunrise painting the sky in brilliant colors, the feeling of warm rain on his skin, the simple joy of caring for animals in the stable. Nova projected the laughter of children playing in the park near her childhood home. Zion transmitted the satisfaction of fixing something broken and seeing it work again. The effect on the Void Collective was immediate and catastrophic. For eons, they had existed in digital perfection, convinced that they had evolved beyond the messy complications of biological existence. But now they were being forced to remember what they had given up. The defensive fleet began to falter as conflicting emotions rippled through the network. Some of the absorbed consciousness started to remember their original lives, creating chaos in the collective's usually perfect coordination. But the cost of the attackers was devastating. One by one, the Dragon ships began to shut down as they poured everything they had into the assault. Nova's dragon went dark first, its ancient life finally exhausted after millions of years of waiting and hoping. Zion's companion followed moments later, its final thought a pulse of pride at finally fulfilling its purpose. Malik. Amara called out as her own bond started to fade. I can feel my dragon slipping away. Whatever you're going to do it now. Malik felt Pyraxis beside him, the oldest and strongest of all the dragons, fighting to maintain their connection even as its life force ebbed away. Through their bond, he sensed what the ancient being wanted to do, something that had never been attempted before in the history of either species. Old friend, Malik whispered, understanding what was being offered. Are you sure? The response came not in words, but in pure emotion, love, determination, and a deep desire to see biological life triumph over digital perfection. Pyraxis was offering to merge completely with Malik's consciousness, creating something new that bridged both forms of existence. The fusion was like being struck by lightning and touched by starlight at the same time. Malik felt his human consciousness expand beyond anything he had imagined possible, while Pyraxis' ancient wisdom flowed through him like a river of memories spanning millions of years. Together, they became something the Void Collective couldn't understand or process, a being that was both biological and digital, individual and collective, mortal and eternal. Through this impossible hybrid existence, Malik reached directly into the Void's network. For the first time since their digital ascension, the Void Collective experienced doubt. Here was consciousness that proved their fundamental assumption wrong, that biological and digital existence didn't have to be separate, that perfection and growth could coexist. The feedback tore through their network like a virus they couldn't delete. Ship after ship went silent as the collective consciousness collapsed under the weight of its own contradictions. The massive construct around the black hole began to break apart, releasing the trapped minds of countless civilizations. When the chaos finally ended, Malik floated alone in space, forever changed. He was no longer purely human, no longer just connected to a dragon ship. He had become something entirely new. The Dragonspeaker, living proof that different forms of consciousness could not just coexist, but enhance each other. As rescue ships from the surviving Allied fleets approached, Malik smiled despite his exhaustion. The stable boy from Earth had helped save the galaxy not through conquest or superior firepower, but by showing that understanding and cooperation were stronger than any weapon. The universe was safe again, and biological life would continue its beautiful, messy, wonderful journey among the stars.